Okay, and onto the bones and landmarks of the foot. We'll first off just quickly mention the tibia and fibula, which is, yeah, there and there. Then there's the calcaneus, which is here. The talus, which is that odd-shaped bone over there. The navicular, which is the coracle-shaped bone over there, or boat-shaped. Then moving forwards, we've got the medial cuneiform, the intermediate cuneiform, the lateral cuneiform, and then the cuboid, which is next to it, which also forms a joint with the talus and calcaneus. Then we have the 5 metatarsals, starting 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then the phalanxes, or phalanges. So proximal phalanx, and then you move forward, and then there's the distal phalanx, that's just on the hallux. However, on the other toes, they have an additional phalanx. So you have the proximal phalanx there, the intermediate phalanx over there, and the distal phalanx there. And then we're just going to move on to some of the landmarks. So we'll start off with the styloid process, which is found on the 5th metatarsal here. And then we'll point out the sustentaculum tali, which is on the talus. And basically it's the ledge which supports the talus here. Then there is the sinus tarsi, which is the little hole which goes right the way through. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see this, but it does go right the way through the foot onto the other side. The sesamoid bones, which are on the hallux metatarsal. It's these two here, where they're not very clear. And then there's the calcaneus tubercles. There's the medial and lateral. So if you want to point to the medial one, that's that one there. And then the lateral, which is that one there. And then the navicular tuberosity, which is this little projection up there. And then the perineal groove on the bottom of the foot, which is on the cuboid, and it just runs across, and that's where peroneus longus runs through. And that's all the bones and landmarks of the foot. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the individual bones of the foot, because often they're quite hard to identify when they're not collectively together. So we're going to start off with the calcaneus here. We've now on a lateral view of the calcaneus here, and you can see that there's the perineal tubercle, which is pointed out there. And if you look at the base, you can see that there is the lateral tubercle of the calcaneus there, and then on the other side is the medial tubercle of the calcaneus. And then if you look towards the top, you can see there, if you want to point out, kind of that is the sustentaculum tali. That's where the talus will sit on top of the calcaneus, just at that region where it's marked B. Okay, and then we'll just have a quick look at some of the more horrible models which they will show you. Obviously, where Connor's thumb is now, that is the base of the calcaneus there, and the front is just there. And at the front, you can see that that would be the area where the cuboid would articulate with the calcaneus. And on top, you can see where that's where the talus would articulate there, the red region there. Okay. Okay, and this is the talus. You can see the top part here. You can see the trochlear surface, which is the smooth, rounded surface over here. Trochlear coming from the Latin name for snail, so as you can see, it looks a little bit like a sort of curved snail shell from that angle. Its main features are it's got a head here, a neck, and a body. And if you look underneath, you'll be able to see this is the surface which will articulate with the calcaneus, and that's where the sulcus tali is, the little groove here. Yeah, and we'll just have a quick look at the larger horrible model which they tend to throw at us. The green bit here is obviously the trochlear surface again. Here's the head. This part here will be where it's articulating with the navicular. And if you look at the back here, this will be where it'll be sitting on top of the it'll be sitting right on top of the calcaneus. There. Okay. And these are cuboids. So if you pick that up, we can see the main thing to look out for in the cuboid to identify it is the perineal groove, which you look on the base, you'll be able to see here, and that's that ridge which goes along there. And that should be all you need to really identify it. There isn't anything, that's quite an individual characteristic. So, yep, that's the cuboid. Okay, and these are the cuneiforms. So we're going to start with the medial ones, which are obviously a lot larger, and that's one of the main characteristics to look for with these. I'll just turn it around so you can see more of it. But yeah, they're obviously larger, and they're quite square, but with a rounded edge there. And that's what you look for with the medial cuneiforms. With the lateral cuneiforms here, and the intermediate cuneiforms, the main difference is they are very, very similar. However, with the intermediate cuneiforms, if you look at their sloping surface, so we mean the surface which is sloping here, going along here, if you look at that, that is shorter than the highest surface, whereas on the intermediate ones, the sloping surface edge here is a lot longer. So if you look for the sloping edge and see which one's the longer, then you should be able to identify which one's which. Okay. Okay, and you will have to distinguish between different types of metatarsals. So the ones on the top here, you can see have got a styloid process attached to them, which means that styloid process is here, which means that they must be fifth metatarsals. The ones in the middle here, they haven't got a styloid process, but it's quite clear as they're normal, unlike the one at the bottom here, that they must be either the second, third, or fourth metatarsal. And the one on the bottom here is the first metatarsal, because it's it's a bit shorter and it's much thicker, particularly at the top, at the bottom. Okay.